On screen, they were magic. Linda Kozlowski and Paul Hogan captivated audiences as the ultimate Crocodile Dundee couple. Off-screen, however, not everything was as charming as it seemed. Behind the cameras, Hogan's behavior sometimes surprised Kozlowski, revealing a side that left her questioning the man she thought she knew. What really happened on the set of Crocodile Dundee? From their rough first encounters to wedding bells and eventual divorce, a resurfaced interview now sheds new light on the moments that shaped their turbulent relationship. On-set sparks, how Linda Kozlowski and Paul Hogan's romance ignited. When Crocodile Dundee rolled cameras in 1986, the chemistry between Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski was impossible to ignore. At the time, Paul was still legally married to his first wife, Noeline Edwards, with whom he had a long, complicated history. Married at 19 and with 5 children, their relationship had already weathered separation, divorce, and even a brief remarriage. Paul's life before the film had already made him a household name in Australia through The Paul Hogan Show and appearances on A Current Affair. But Crocodile Dundee catapulted him to international fame. Linda, 20 years his junior, played Sue Charlton, a New York travel reporter, and their on-screen romance quickly spilled into real life. Paul soon left Noeline, and his relationship with Linda deepened rapidly. Despite their complicated pasts, Paul's estrangement from Noeline lasting 17 years and Linda's own prior marriage, the couple tied the knot in 1990. Their connection went beyond acting, built on mutual admiration and affection. Linda once explained, "He's great as a husband. It's more interesting to be with an Australian man because American men are easier to mold," highlighting the unique dynamic of their bond. Paul, ever the romantic, reportedly built a custom mansion as a wedding gift, cementing their life together. After Crocodile Dundee, the pair continued to share the screen in films like Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles and Almost an Angel. Their chemistry undeniable both on and off camera. In 1998, their family grew with the birth of their son, Chance. Linda embraced motherhood wholeheartedly, choosing family over returning to acting. Reflecting on this period, she said, "I was about to turn 40 and just wanted to have a baby. Now at 43 I have a baby, and I'm happy and content. I've reached a point in my life where I'm at peace and have moved past all that." The end of an era. Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski's separation. For years, Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski's family of 3 seemed like the picture of happiness, sharing life together and raising their son Chance. But in late 2013, the couple stunned fans by announcing the end of their 23-year marriage. The news sparked curiosity and speculation about what had gone wrong behind the scenes. Linda later explained in an interview that she had initiated the divorce, seeking to rediscover her own identity. She told the Sydney Morning Herald, "I lived in Paul's shadow for many, many years, and it's nice to feel my own light right now. Honestly, we just naturally grew apart. One of our problems was that we really had nothing in common, and over time, that happens to a lot of people." The divorce settlement allowed Paul to retain full rights to his Crocodile Dundee character and film company, while Linda received a one-time payment of approximately $6 million. There were no spousal or child support obligations, and the pair agreed to share custody of Chance, handling the transition with a surprising level of maturity. Paul reflected on their long relationship, noting how their differences had originally drawn them together. "We were opposites, and we were attracted to each other for a long time. Opposites in everything, from the food we ate, the music we liked, the entertainment we enjoyed, the colors, the clothes, the places, everything. It worked for a while. We had 20 wonderful years, though the last 2 or 3 felt a bit worn out." He argued that their marriage shouldn't be labeled a failure. "I'm very flighty. Most women last about a quarter of a century with me before they get bored. How can you fail after a quarter of a century? Failed marriages are when two people stay together even though they've long lost interest. Even after their separation, Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski managed to maintain a cordial relationship, staying committed to co-parenting their son, Chance. Linda described their divorce as entirely amicable, emphasizing that their connection remained healthy. "We talk on the phone all the time, and I go over and have coffee. We're completely friendly. Everybody's happy," she explained, noting that both she and Paul prioritized their son's well-being above all else. When asked about the criticism Paul faced for leaving his first wife for someone 19 years younger, he reflected thoughtfully. In hindsight, he saw the path they had taken as almost inevitable. Comparing their romance to a shipboard movie romance, he explained that the chemistry between leading actors can be intense but often fleeting. "You never fall in love with your leading man or leading lady. It won't last. And they're right. After about 20 years, it wears off." Their relationship was beautiful to their fans and anyone who cared to know. Paul Hogan's high-stakes legal battle with the Australian Tax Office. However, after their breakup, public attention shifted from their love story to Hogan's career and personal controversies. One of the most significant challenges came in the form of a long-running legal saga with the Australian Taxation Office, ATO. From February 2003 until November 2010, Hogan faced intense scrutiny over alleged tax evasion. The investigation, part of the broad Operation Wickenby, examined a reported 300 million Australian dollars scheme involving 23 companies allegedly using overseas entities to hide income. Throughout the ordeal, Hogan maintained his innocence, asserting in a July 2008 interview with Network 10 that he had paid substantial taxes in Australia and had nothing to fear from the ATO. Despite the media frenzy and public attention, he remained confident and distanced himself from the accusations. After years of legal battles and uncertainty, all charges were eventually dropped, clearing his name and allowing him to move forward without the shadow of the investigation hanging over his life and career. In October 2008, Paul Hogan scored a major win in his long-running tax dispute with the Australian Crime Commission, ACC. The court ordered the ACC to cover up to an estimated 5 million Australian dollars in legal fees dating back to 2006 and return personal financial documents they had seized. Documents they later admitted were irrelevant to the case. Notably, Hogan himself had never been formally charged, despite the investigation having dragged on since 2003. However, the drama wasn't over. On June 18, 2010, Hogan suffered a setback in the Australian High Court when he lost a bid to keep his tax documents confidential. As a result, details about his offshore accounts were made subject to public release. Earlier that year, reports suggested the ACC was preparing to press criminal tax evasion charges against Hogan, his longtime collaborator John Cornell, and accountant Anthony Stewart. Authorities alleged that millions from Crocodile Dundee and other films had been funneled into offshore tax havens, and the release of Hogan's financial records was expected to play a pivotal role in the case. On August 20, 2010, Hogan returned to Australia for his mother's funeral, a deeply personal occasion overshadowed by his ongoing legal troubles. Upon arrival, the Australian Taxation Office, ATO, issued a departure prohibition order preventing him from leaving the country while his alleged 37.5 million Australian dollars tax debt was unresolved. Just weeks later, on September 3rd, the ATO allowed him to return to the U.S. following negotiations between his lawyers and Australian tax officials. Hogan maintained his innocence throughout, consistently denying any wrongdoing. In November 2010, the ATO finally dropped its criminal investigation into Hogan and his business manager, effectively ending years of scrutiny. The decision marked a turning point, giving him much-needed relief after a protracted legal battle. Still, The investigation had left its mark, impacting his reputation and career. By January 2011, Hogan's lawyer announced that he was suing the Australian government, claiming that the lengthy investigation had caused irreparable damage to his earnings and professional standing. Frustration boiled over for Paul Hogan during his years of wrangling with the Australian tax office. In public statements, he didn't hold back, comparing the ATO to the Taliban and using some choice, unflattering words for its staff. His fiery remarks revealed just how deeply the ordeal had affected him, both personally and professionally. In May 2012, a major development occurred. With the mediation of a former High Court judge, Hogan reached a settlement with the Commissioner of Taxation. The agreement came without any admission of wrongdoing on Hogan's part, meaning he did not acknowledge legal fault. While the terms were kept confidential, one key outcome was that the departure prohibition order was lifted, granting him freedom to travel again. Yet this seemed far from the end of his troubles. By April 2013, Hogan's financial advisor, Anthony Stewart, was still embroiled in disputes with the ATO, highlighting lingering complexities in Hogan's finances. That same month, Paul made headlines over 32.3 million Australian dollars tied up in a Swiss bank managed by the Geneva firm Strachan's. The money, allegedly intended for tax planning, was inaccessible, prompting Hogan to file a U.S. lawsuit seeking 80 million Australian dollars in damages. His claim included suspicions that Philip Eglishaw, Strachan's principal and former tax advisor, had misappropriated the funds. Eglishaw denied the allegations, setting the stage for yet another chapter in Hogan's financial saga. The story didn't end there. In May 2017, Chris Jordan, then Commissioner of Taxation, reignited controversy by suggesting that Hogan had paid tens of millions to settle the matter, despite his claims of victory in 2012. Hogan quickly refuted the statement, asserting that he had upheld his end of the 2012 settlement and accusing Jordan of violating the confidentiality clause. This dispute underscored that Hogan's legal and financial battles were far from over, keeping him in the headlines and complicating his public image. With Paul Hogan's saga laid out, the focus now turns to Linda Kozlowski. What path did she take after Crocodile Dundee? Let's explore her story next. Linda Kozlowski. Life beyond the Crocodile Dundee spotlight. After her separation from Paul Hogan in 2013, Linda Kozlowski made the bold decision to step away from Hollywood entirely. Her final on-screen appearance came in 2001, reprising her beloved role as Sue Charlton for the last installment of the Crocodile Dundee series. That chapter marked the end of her film career, but it also opened the door to a life beyond the pressures of fame. Reflecting on her career in a 1988 interview with the Los Angeles Times, Linda explained how the massive success of Crocodile Dundee brought both opportunity and limitation. While casting directors repeatedly called her in for roles, many were one-dimensional parts, often just the girlfriend of some funny guy. She acknowledged the irony. Fame had brought recognition, but also typecasting, leaving her frustrated with the creative compromises she faced. By 2001, Linda was ready to walk away completely. In an interview with Scripps Howard News Service, she candidly described the strain of working on low-quality, straight-to-video films. These schlocky films I was getting were giving me an ulcer basically because I was the only one on the set that cared about anything, she said. She often found herself questioning the scripts and the direction of productions, only to be dismissed. I'd say, well, this scene doesn't make sense. They'd just reply, "Aw, so what? Just say the lines." In those moments, she realized, this isn't fun anymore. This is not why I studied. It's not what I love. Alongside the ticking of her biological clock, she chose to leave it all behind. Since stepping out of the Hollywood limelight, Linda has embraced a new chapter filled with travel and personal fulfillment. She frequently shares glimpses of her adventures on social media, often alongside her longtime partner and travel companion, Moulay. Their journeys reflect a life rich with joy, exploration, and freedom, far removed from the constraints of her acting career. According to sources, Linda's departure from Hollywood was also shaped by the pressures of motherhood and living in Paul Hogan's shadow. Despite her love for acting, theater, and the arts, she became increasingly frustrated with typecasting and mediocre roles. One insider told the Daily Mail, "She thought the roles and the rocket to superstardom would take her places she never even imagined. But the roles weren't there. She wasn't offered anything of substance." Since stepping away from Hollywood, Linda Kozlowski has found a new rhythm in life, splitting her time between Los Angeles and Morocco alongside her partner, Moulay. What began as a friendship and business partnership eventually blossomed into romance, offering her a more balanced and fulfilling lifestyle outside the film industry. About a decade ago, Linda and Moulay launched their Marrakesh-based company, Dream My Destiny, which provides curated tour packages and film location scouting services. Reflecting on the venture in 2014, Linda shared, "Paul is very famous, and I lived in his shadow for a long time. I feel good now to be out on my own and doing my own things." She credited Moulay's encyclopedic knowledge of Morocco and her own understanding of trends and traveler desires as key to their company's success. Together, they built a dynamic partnership that merged passion with expertise. The couple also invested in a stunning single-story home in Ojai, featuring 4 bedrooms and 2 baths, purchased for nearly $2 million. Ojai's scenic trails and creative community make it an ideal retreat. Yet, this is far from Linda's only residence. After her divorce settlement with Paul Hogan, which awarded her a one-time payment of $6.25 million, Linda dove into real estate, quietly building a growing portfolio and establishing herself as a savvy investor. Her focus has centered on Venice Beach, often called Silicon Beach, for its appeal to tech entrepreneurs and creatives. Linda has acquired multiple properties there, turning the area's booming market into an opportunity to expand her financial empire. One notable transaction involved selling a home for $1.9 million, then reinvesting in a $2 million property that she now rents out. Neighbors have praised her strategy, telling Daily Mail Australia in 2017, "She has been really smart and made millions. She got a settlement from Paul, of course, and she's used it well." Linda's investments have earned her the playful nickname Queen of Silicon Beach, reflecting both her financial acumen and independence. Living in Venice, she thrives in a community of artists, innovators, and outdoor enthusiasts, a perfect backdrop for her reinvention. With every new property acquisition, Linda continues to craft a narrative of resilience, showing how she transformed from Hollywood starlet to a self-made entrepreneur, carving out a life defined by independence, intelligence, and ambition.